Awesome.
Okay, so we've got Rhonda from Sherman Oaks. Rhonda, welcome to KLEAN Radio.
Thank you for taking my call. I have a 24-year-old son who has an alcohol problem, who refuses to believe he has an alcohol problem, and I don't know how to help.
Okay. Why do you say he has an alcohol problem? What's he been doing? What's been going on?
Well, what I can see is he's binging. His father had the same issue, and it grew into drugs and alcohol. It started with the alcohol. And he's drinking probably 2-3 times a week, sometimes starting early in the morning. Can't keep a job. Absolutely believes everybody in the world is against him, including God.
That sounds like alcoholism.
I think he qualifies.
Yeah.
Judah laughing, but it's just because of the irony that, and I can understand, that it's a painful situation for yourself and your son. But, what we're laughing about is that it's hard for us to recognize, or hard for, I think, people that aren't alcoholics to recognize that the alcoholic really is sort of self-obsessed with their drinking and doesn't really see the damage that they're doing to the family members around them. Until they get sober.
I also identify a lot,
and that's what I'm saying. So
is right when I was it was like I was that 22-year-old kid that, I couldn't hold a job, drinking like that, blamed God, blamed everybody for everything.
So let's ask you, Judah, what was it that really broke through to you? I mean,
you want to know? Around my parents getting help, and I mean that from my mom and dad. And I always joke about this when I speak at meetings, and I always used to say, thank God my parents found Al-Anon, because they stopped believing that meetings cost $10 a week to go to. And because I had convinced my parents that AA cost money. and this time when I was getting sober, they didn't believe that anymore. All they gave me was like $1.50 for a token to get to Manhattan. And they had started to get help for themselves. And those things that I was able to do to them, like holding them hostage, stopped working. And that's why a big thing that we recommend is for the family to get help.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's important for you to understand exactly what alcoholism is and how alcoholics behave and how they manipulate people around them, not necessarily purposefully to hurt you, but to be able to continue in their own addiction and their use of alcohol. It becomes that important to them that they sort of lose sight as to, what they're doing and what they're saying and how they're affecting the people around them.
What does he say to you when you say to him he has a problem?
Oh, that I don't know what I'm talking about. That he doesn't have to, he just likes to.
Right.
Everybody else in the world drinks. What's the problem? I'm an adult. I'm over 21. It's your problem.
Where does he live?
My house.
Okay. Where does he get money?
He will work for a couple of days doing telemarketing or whatever it takes to make a couple of bucks, and then he ends up losing the job.
Right. Well, Andrew and I are very against tough love. We're not the people you're going to call and we're going to say, kick your kid out, because we believe things like that only get worse. But what we do suggest a lot of times is raising the
bottom of expectations that make it harder for him to get by, but don't give up on the concept that you love him. I think that one of the and I think you heard, maybe if you're listening earlier to Paul, it was finally he had an intervention from family members, and he finally felt some relief. And he obviously Paul's a little bit older than a 24-year-old,
just a little.
Yeah, but so sometimes it takes a little while, but there are limits that you can set that are perfectly reasonable. So you don't want to just be, you're an alcoholic or you have a problem with alcohol, I'm just going to kick you out on the street and I don't love you, or I love you, but I'm going to love you by making your life as impossible to deal with as ever. What you want to do is, in my opinion, is to try and make it harder for him to drink and not take responsibility for the consequences of his drinking. So, for example, if drinking has him lose a job, then there should be some sort of consequence for that. And, if he's living at your house, you should be paying rent. He's 24 years old. So there's one thing where you could say, hey, you know what? I love you. I want you to live here for as long as you need to, but you're going to have to be responsible and pay some rent. And that means keeping a job. So, there's one consequence. And if you can't, then you're going to have to start looking for somewhere else to live. And if you can't find a place within, 4 weeks, then we're going to have another discussion about what you're going to do. But you really need to do this in partnership with a counselor who can help you, because one of the things that's really, really effective is doing what we call contracting, where you actually work with your son, with a therapist, and you come up with like a set of rules. And you contract. You both talk about what your needs are and what his needs are, how you feel about it, how he feels about it, and then you make a contract together about what the expectations are for him to do to stay living with you in your house. And then if he doesn't break that if he breaks the contract, then there's consequences.
Yeah, we wrote out a contract when he first moved in 2.5 years ago.
And how is that? How have you kept your part of the contract?
Not yet.
You see, that's the thing.
That's the enabling part.
Rhonda, we
right.
really listen. I mean, one of the big reasons, and my mother and my father used to say, as long as my son's alive, there's a chance. And I put my parents through the ringer. All of us in here put our family through the ringer. So we totally get what you're going through. But now it's time for you to get help for yourself, because you shouldn't have to do this by yourself. And I can't implore upon you that more. Give us a call. We have tons of resources.
Okay.
Absolutely. We have a lot of outpatient therapists we work with, as well as people at KLEAN. The number there, and if I'll give you back to the producer so that they can give you the number, but I'll just give it out as well. It's 888-601-6040, and you can actually call our treatment advisors. They're on the phone all the time.
And it's all free. We'll totally, talk to you for free and all that stuff. So I don't want you to think, but please, you shouldn't have to. And this is, Ron, it's important for everybody out there listening. You don't have to do this by yourself.
And there's hope. Yeah. There's a lot of hope.
You're talking to 3 people that are hopeful, that have gotten the hope.
Well, thank you for calling, Rhonda. I really appreciate it.
And if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio Live. That's KLEAN with a K. The number here is 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. We're in the studio tonight with an amazing talent. His name is Paul Casey. He's a television director.
It's tough for me to hear those calls because it's like a 24-year-old kid, and I remember being 24, and I didn't care what anybody said. Yeah, and, right? And you were talking about, losing a lot of things early on, even though you didn't have alcoholism or drug addiction to the degree that you ended up having it before you finally quit. Clearly, if there was better ways to sort of notice what was going on and intervene earlier, you probably could have saved yourself a lot of problems.
I was sharing it at a meeting that, I was this close, this close when, 20 at 22, at 28, at 30, at 35, and I don't know, why it didn't get the way it finally did. That realize that where I realized that okay, this is out of control for me. Right. I've lost all control of this, and but it could have happened at any of those moments. It was close enough, But I also understand the how hard it must be, because I know where my head was at when I was 24. Exactly the 3 things that Rhonda said. What he said. It's not your problem, it's mine, or whatever. I can deal with it.
Right. Everybody does it.
Everybody, it's all of that. That was like I wasn't going to be listening to anybody.
Yeah. It's amazing because my heart goes out to Rhonda, and I'm sure yours does too. But it's like I know what I did to my mother.
And yet, we look at it at KLEAN, we have so many kids coming in younger and younger, and I say kids, but they're really young adults that are coming in younger and younger and actually successfully becoming sober. Yeah. A lot of that is also because kids are getting into other drugs other than alcohol.
Right.
The traditional period that it took from someone drinking alcohol to where they actually became sort of an alcoholic was like 35 years of drinking. 20 to 35 years of drinking, and now we have things like meth and cocaine and whatever. Not that those didn't exist before, but they entered the popular culture, and prescription pills especially now. Yeah. And that's making adolescents and young adults actually have to enter treatment quicker, because it's just amazing. These kids are coming in on just huge numbers of.
I've never even heard of half this stuff.
I mean, they're on. Yeah, I mean, they know every kind of opiate by the pharmaceutical name. That
they're like the pill Bibles,
right? It's just unbelievable.
When I checked into KLEAN, I mean, I would sit around like befuddled by some of the names of these things. What the hell's I didn't even know what a benzo was.